Hello? All right, this works. Okay, can they hear you? All right. Hi, everyone. So we're here to talk about how to get the next billion users to Web3, which I think is a really important topic. Yeah, do you want to start maybe introducing yourself and we can kind of talk about what we're doing?
Absolutely. So thank you guys for being here. You can probably see that I'm not Reeve Collins, but Reeve is the Chief Innovation Officer that actually built the underlying technology to support our platform. So my name is Michael Chalk. I'm the Chief Solutions Officer at a company called Smart Media Labs. Our goal is really to understand how do we make NFTs accessible to the masses? How do we make that bridge between the Web 2 environment and the Web 3 environment, understanding that this is an evolutionary process and that people can't just jump. A lot of the people here in this room, at this conference, these are the early adopters that are very excited about this. My job is to say, how do we bring the rest of the people along this journey to understand the excitement that is NFTs and Web 3?
Hi, I'm Hsuan from Blockto. And yeah, I'm trying to solve a similar problem, but with a different angle. So Blockto is a wallet, is the largest non-custodial wallet on Flow. So as you may have heard, like NBA Top Shot, MotoGP Ignition, they're built on Flow, and it's built by the same team that created CryptoKitties. So like what we focus on doing at Blockto is to make this blockchain experience as simple as possible. So normal people without technical background can get easily on board with like a Web 2 kind of experience. Yeah, so like we think this is a key driver that actually can bring the next billion users. So on top of providing a good, interesting applications to use, and also like promoting it properly and making it easy to use is also another factor that actually can bring users into this space.
Yeah, and I took a couple of notes, and I want to just mention a couple of things that you guys might say, is fairly direct. But let's just be frank about what we have to do to buy NFTs today. Most of the time, it's really ridiculous. You want to try to get your aunt to buy, you want to try to get your parent to buy, you want to try to get your grandparent to buy, forget it. And so what we have realized is like the nerds have built for the nerds, which is fine. Like that, we're at architecture time, right? But that's not going to work. Like no one cares. Most people don't care. The QR code they get, the credit card checkout they get. They're going to need an onboarding flow that is stupid simple. And that's like one of the things I wrote about back in the day is like Web 2.5, because I thought we're not ready. Like we're just not ready. And even, things like POAP, if you guys are familiar, it's still too like you get the QR code, you scan the QR code, but all the instructions are complicated. And maybe they're not complicated for us, but they're complicated for the billion people out there that know nothing about this. So that's just, I wrote up a couple things, and so I wanted to say, let's just think about some stuff, right? So I have to add myself to a whitelist. I have to go on Discord. Who likes Discord? Like realistically, though. I have to be up 24/7 to wait for some there's a drop coming. Come on, WTF? What is this? That's not the future, okay? So we have to take everything that we understand about the blockchain, put it on the bottom. It's got to be the back-end technology. And then everything we see today and we understand today is the front-end technology. You should not even know you're using the blockchain, bottom line. Having a record as a notarized receipt obviously makes sense, right? So pointing to that blockchain record makes sense. But doing things for the sake of blockchain makes zero sense. So just some of my thoughts.
No, I would definitely agree. And to get kind of a sense of the knowledge base in the room, how many people here are creators? Great. And how many people are technologists? And what are the rest of you that didn't raise your hands? But this is, I think Gary makes a great point. And one of the clients that we work with is PBR, Professional Bull Riding, not the beer, mistake I made one time. And when I went to the arena, we had a massive concern because we were contracted to be the NFT partner. And our preconceived notions were that these were going to be cowboys with flip phones. And when we arrived at the arena, they were damping everything down. We were concerned, they were like, oh, they're putting stuff down to keep the dust down. Turns out it was all gasoline. They lit it on fire. The whole arena goes up, and it leaves PBR there. very, very enthusiastic crowd. We auctioned off the ceremonial rights to a bull, one of the championship bulls, at the venue. We had 10,000 people open their phones, scan a QR code, and start participating in an NFT drop and a scavenger hunt all around Las Vegas in order to bring this in. After we surveyed, we found out that more than 60% of the people had no understanding what an NFT was, what it was. And to your point, this is how we start bringing the next evolution of people onto the platform, by creating experiences that start providing value to the consumer, that provide education, entertainment, or some value that they're going to say, oh yeah, I'm very happy to go through this 2-step process or 3-step process in order to receive some sort of benefit.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of these applications out there right now, they're focusing too much about decentralization. I mean, I get it, it's good, like it's one like core idea in Bitcoin and Ethereum, but it's only appealing to a very small like group of people. And most of the people in the world, like they don't really care about this. So like actually, so we provide like a mixed custodial experience. Users start with using their email or their social accounts to create a blockchain account, and they can get access to these applications like CNN Vault, NBA Top Shot easily. And then like later, like if they learn more about blockchain, they can switch to like holding the key themselves. They don't have to do it on day one. Like when you don't have any assets in your wallet yet, like you can bother to like stick to the entire process, like setting up seed phrase and getting to an exchange and buy some like Ethereum or Polygon to like fill into your wallets to pay for the gas fee. Like it just doesn't make sense. Yeah, so like it can come later. And like what we've observed is that although we are providing this kind of conversion, most of our users, actually 96% of our users, stay in custodial mode. So like they're just here mostly for the experience. Like not that many people care that much about like decentralization anyway.
Yeah, I want to touch on that because so 2017, I had this Bitcoin moment. I was doing something else, and my own client was like, "Have you heard of Bitcoin?" And then from there, just things went crazy. And I then realized that there was this Stacks protocol that builds smart contracts on Bitcoin, and I never even like dove into ETH. I was just like, Bitcoin makes sense to me. I've got the finality figured out. I can do the math on it. It's deflate, like all these techie things, right? But then I'm like, I get it. Doesn't mean anyone's going to get it. It doesn't mean they're going to want to spend the time to get it. So we quickly built a credit card first on-ramp for Bitcoin NFTs. It's like it's literally like to someone that is pro decentralization, pro Bitcoin, it sounds like the worst thing to build. But people come on our site, they pay USD, we convert it to Stack, we do the job, and we anchor that to Bitcoin. So now they have the most secure, and again, same process, they can sync to their own wallet, they can transfer it out. We're not trying to steal their NFTs, we want to onboard them. And that's literally our process, and it's the same. It's so with an email address and a credit card, you buy Bitcoin NFTs, and then you can transfer them, and we educate you along the way because we want you to do that. But we understand you're not going to understand it day one. So I guess I'm like a little bit of a contrarian from that sense because I took like the hardest chain with the simplest process.
I think something that's very interesting to think about, though, is why NFTs. And in my day-to-day, one of the most common questions I get when I'm speaking with new brands, new creators, is why do I need to make this an NFT? Why does this need to go on a chain? Why can't this just be a digital object? And I think that's a really interesting topic that can start, that I think might be interesting for us to talk about a little bit, is how do we start demystifying some of the things behind NFTs, like the WW World Wildlife Fund did the massive campaign for the pandas, and they got absolutely destroyed because of the gas fees and the environmental impacts. So I think something that might be interesting, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, is how can we actually talk about NFTs by demystifying some of the things like the immense impact on the environment?
Yeah, I mean, like that's a great point with Bitcoin. Obviously, Stacks does that. That's sort of why it exists. It recycles Bitcoin energy. So I definitely think you guys should take a look at it. It's a proof of transfer consensus mechanism for anyone that's interested, and yields Bitcoin. But that's more on the technical side. I think, the bottom line is just remove. So we built something called the multipass, and it's basically, it's a POAP on Bitcoin, right? But it doesn't have. It's just QR code. You get something pretty, and you're excited. And the multipasses in the future, we're going to be multi-chain. So my whole thing is I'm going to build my foundation on stacks, but I'm down for ETH, I'm down for Flow, because we all just need to communicate together and not. That's the other thing, right? Is that the problem right now is everyone's on a different highway and it's in different tunnels, and the tunnels don't connect. Like there's no points of intersection, and so like another 5 years, you won't care what block. It's just like you will just use one. They'll all connect. That's the ideal point, right? And you won't really care.
Right. That's the goal of Web3, right? Is that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and so multi-chain is also one thing that we focus a lot about. Like as you have mentioned, like blockchain should only supposed to be the infrastructure. Like when you go into a website, no matter it's built on Google Cloud or AWS or anywhere else, you don't really care. Like it just works. Like you go to a website and like you can interact with it, and that's all you need. And right now, Bitcoin is like. When you're using a Bitcoin, I mean blockchain. So when you're using a blockchain-based application, you have to know which blockchain it's built on. And for every different blockchain, you have to set up a different wallet. And that's like, learning to set up a wallet is already confusing. Like, let alone setting up like 7 different applications. So that is something that we're also working on fixing, which is like we built a layer on top of each blockchain. So like we built a smart contract layer. So although each blockchain performs differently, like the account system works differently, the smart contract works differently, but for the users and for the developers, they should like feel the same. Yeah, you shouldn't have to know like which blockchain. It should be chain agnostic. So that is something that I think will come very soon, probably in the next couple of years, where like people just use blockchain applications. They don't have to know which blockchain it's based on, or they don't even know it's a blockchain application. It just has some blockchain feature powered functionalities in it.
So what do you say to people that are like, because there are factions, right? It's like for playing the game of Risk. And it's funny because we have Tron out there. They have an interesting history, but they're putting on a good show. So like, how do we become friends? Like legit friends, and not say, hey, my blockchain is like the best blockchain. Because it's interesting, you have nations that run the blockchains they support now, right? So you have like countries in Asia that are like, we only trust this blockchain. What do you guys think about that process?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. One of the big things that we see very frequently is, number one, it's a lack of understanding. And our view on the wallet is that should be owned by the consumer, and that every individual has the right to their wallet, to their ownership, and to all of the data that's associated thereof. Where the chain agnostic portion comes into play is when you start saying, how do you as a consumer actually monetize that value of your information, of your wallet, so that you can start saying, you know what, I own the 3 NFTs that are relating to this very rare wine. Now I have a profile that I'd be willing to exchange value. And as the consumer starts driving monetization of their personal data, and we build into this idea of like a Web3 CRN, all of a sudden then you now have all of the providers trying to build tunnels to access that same user. So my belief that it has to come from the consumer side in order to mandate adoption and usage of this in order to facilitate data transfers.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Hi, do you want to intro yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry about being a little late. I thought it was over at 12:30. I guess I didn't get the memo over here. But no, all good. I mean, really happy to be here and see everyone else. I'm Matt. I'm from Blockchain Founders Fund, early stage venture fund. All we do is support founders. We're trying to navigate them through this space. We want to, find the best people, support the best projects, and try to change the world at this point right now. I think this is our opportunity.
So yeah, I have a follow-up. So what are you looking for when it comes to like, companies that are looking to make it easy for web onboarding billion users to Web3?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'm really looking for right now is utility. And I think utility is the only hedge against inflation that we really have today. And I think already in the NFT communities, there is a lot of problems where I haven't seen a lot of utility. I would say like right now, 95% of the projects are probably scams, and people are just releasing PFP pictures and find an easier way to scam like they did in 2017. They've moved on to this. And I think you can actually, tell that we're not even supporting utility because, even when we're checking in, right? We all got these little lanyards. There's finance, there's games, there's music, and music and games are utility, but guess what? I didn't see a color for a specific utility. And there's so many other things out there, right? Like NFTs, I think have a lot of stigma around them. And one of the things about that is like, you ask anyone, hey, you ask your parents, what about NFTs? They're gonna tell you, oh, people are selling these profile pictures for $400,000. And at the end of the day, you know what that does? Like, it looks really bad on all of us. Because what we're actually trying to support here is, like digital, rights. And what that actually means is, these NFTs can actually be CVs. They could be, music royalties. They can be cars. They could be houses. Anything that you want to prove your rightful ownership to is what they can be, and they have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point with utility. And I think that's something that needs to be focused on by the entire ecosystem because it is the $1.5 million sale of an image of an ape that is getting the majority of the press right now rather than understanding the vast utility that can accompany an NFT. We work on a lot of projects that start by saying, how do we first gather user information, make sure that they're empowered with that. Second, start providing them utility that they're very happy to exchange their information, their intimate details with a brand, with an advertiser in exchange for that. We build NFT passes that focus on, hey, you bought a concert ticket, so now that ticket is going to become a collectible token that has access to a portal that you can buy the first ever song. So trying to tie it back into this idea that it becomes part of a user experience and that not just a standalone piece that you can wave about. And our belief right now is the market, about 95% of it is based in speculation. That NFTs, that people are buying because of this kind of early craze, and that is going to be something that dwindles very rapidly in the coming futures, especially when we see things like the crypto market performing how it has in the past week.
Yeah, and actually, we've observed this this trend going up and down a couple of times. So back in 2017, there was this ICO hype, and a lot of projects issue their tokens. Most of them are scams, and some of them are actually building stuff. And those projects that are actually building stuff and that are actually trying to provide value are those that survived and make it to 2019 when the next bull market comes. And then we see this all over again. So 2021, NFT hype and a lot of projects pour in, and now it's getting calm. And I think it's a good thing for the ecosystem. So the projects that are actually trying to build stuff, and actually we know a lot of projects have been working hard to build real value. So what I've observed in Taiwan, China market is that there were a lot of freemium game builders, freemium game studios. Now they're switching about 40-50% of them are switching to adopting some Web3 element in there. And these are the studios that are actually trying to build games that are fun to play or actually provide value and that actually engaging. So, but it takes time for them to actually build out this stuff. And so when the next bull market comes, these will be the key drivers to push the market to a whole new level.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I think what you were touching on is, we've taken the spotlight away from supporting utility to supporting, these projects that are just, having parties or, projects that are just continuously launching asset after asset after asset and having people sell it. And what that does is you're just kicking the can down the line. And, it reminds me of let them eat cake. And what that means is, I think, is we have these things taking up the spotlight right now, when in the end, you have all these real builders out there who are trying to change the world through their developments right now, and they've never seen the light. Because right now, a majority of people are trying to get a quick bag in this, and that's not sustainable. I think what we experience right now is a bubble. A lot of people are investing in things that they don't know, and things that weren't logical, and they went along with that FOMO and kind of, aped into everything at that point. And what that has led us to today is, like a large crash in the market. And if we were supporting utility in this, we would be able to survive. And instead, what we allowed is these communities, to, make this tribal mentality of getting everyone to hold and, and ape into these things and be this degenerate behavior. But in the end, I would say that's irresponsible. Like what this Web3 technology is, it has the ability to empower the rest of the world, right? And I think one of the biggest utilities for all this right now is play-to-earn games. And I think there's already a huge issue in play-to-earn games where the barrier of entry is so high, right? You're not going to pay $2,000 for an NFT to go enter into these games. It's absolutely ridiculous. And in the end, that just creates a giant Ponzi scheme. And really, like, what we need to be doing is lowering the barrier of entry so that everybody can get involved. And what that actually does is, you're allowing people in, say, like India, Indonesia, or even Venezuela, for example, to be able to enter into these games and make enough money to leave, their country. And I think, like, the best example to all of that is in Venezuela, when the currency, became valueless, people were making more money mining RoomScape Gold online and then selling it on eBay, right? And so we're actually able to provide people with economies beyond their own in their economical environment. And that's where all the real value is here. We're trying to change the world and give people global wages. And at the moment, we're doing a really bad job of it.
I wanted to comment on that because, like you said, this is a transformational time. We're building things that are changing the world, and yet there's a lot of like this polarization, like this good morning, like this weird, like, and I'm all about it too. But I think I want to see a different future. Like I kind of am very aligned with you. So I don't care about short-term hype. I also think it's not healthy. Like, how are you going to literally every day wake up and put out 100% quality, right? You need sleep, like you need breaks. And so, like I always say, I'm in it for the long game. And yeah, I kind of think we're screwing ourselves. Like and that's why like it's important to call it out, because if you don't notice it, like if you don't say it, it's just gonna get worse.
Exactly, and I mean, like the two biggest things you see in these chats are, good morning and FUD, right? And FUD has now been an excuse for censorship. You say something against one of these projects, and next thing you know, you're banned from the group in the end. When in reality, we should all be having this debate. We're all intellectuals. We're all trying to do something different here. Let's talk about it. Why is this project not good? Let's, relate into it more.
So on that, something I'd love the audience to leave this with some takeaways. What are the things that you look at while you are evaluating opportunities to determine whether or not it is part of this Ponzi-esque scheme or it's a real opportunity to build a future?
I mean, the things that I'm looking at first, is always the teams. And I think most importantly, everything comes from top down, right? So I'm looking for people who have those mentalities to go out there and you go make a difference. I'm not looking for founders who are going to go try to buy their next Ferrari or next, Moncler jacket, because in the end, that's only just, a symbol of wealth. But what does that do for the world? And I think, a lot of the people who are going after these things, like, they probably don't even value their own opinions because they would be able to go stand on their own. And the things that I'm looking for are people who are building utility to where in any type of market volatility, they're not going to go away. Like the best example, again, is games right now. So we're one of the first investors in on Splinterlands. We've helped them build like throughout like the next like 4 years, the past 4 years. And what we've seen right now is despite everything that's going on in the market, Splinterlands has about 430,000 active daily users. And guess what? That's not going away. It's just growing. And the best example to that is we've never put $1 of marketing into the Philippines. But right now, the Philippines is the hottest spot for gaming. And like as you can see right now, there's YGG over there building this larger community. And what's that doing is it's creating a sustainable ecosystem. This is our hedge against inflation. Like the market is crashing. Stocks are a total scam. They're manipulated by hedge funds. What do we have? And we want to preserve this right now. And all I've seen right now is we're letting institutions come in and destroy this. And when we're creating bad mentalities, when we're trying to hold projects, when in the end, all the institutions see that as a psychological manipulation to make you guys hold while they're selling it right back to you or dumping on you at the end. And I can't stand for that anymore.
I don't know. I think we have 10 or 5.
Thank you, guys. I was
anyone have
worried I was going to
questions?
get a little hate over here, but I'm glad to see that everyone's about this larger vision.
I don't know about everyone, but I think some people. Is any Q&A or anything? Otherwise, we could talk about some.
Yeah, let's open it up to questions from the audience. What are the things that you guys were hoping to hear and learn here today?
Scams, though, that's a problem.
Yeah, you all the way in the back.
First of all, thank you for saying everything you just said. I've been working on a project for a year, and I've been desperate to hear that kind of honesty. Can you repeat your name again?
Yeah, my name is Matt Cross, and I work with Blockchain Founders Fund. So if there are any real utility builders, I'd love to talk to you afterwards.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you. No question.
You're welcome. I mean, it's not just me. There's so many of us who have the same, voice and opinions. But a lot of the time, people are afraid to go step out and say something. Because, someone like, one of these projects might go weaponize their entire community to go get a bunch of bots and take down your Twitter account, or to go take down your Instagram, or they might go attack you online. And again, we're creating a toxic environment for all of this.
Yeah, and I just want to say, going back, because scams are on my mind right now. And I'm the CTO of my company. I'm actually better at product, but I'm a self-taught engineer. Bottom line is I got rugged in November, ETH wallet, everything was stolen. And I just clicked on a link, right? I was doing a bunch of things at once. I wasn't paying attention, and my MetaMask got rugged. So how is that going to get people excited about staying in a community? It doesn't make any sense to me. So we're really early, and we need to think long-term, because these are the things we need to fix. I don't, maybe some of us have money to fall back on. I have a brother that just literally lost everything because he was listening to me, but he doesn't have, the money to so now he's close to zero. And these are the things we're dealing with right now, and we have to be realistic. So don't let, I had a bunch of these NFTs and all the, some big ones and stuff like that, but don't let that cloud, why we're here.
Supposed to work? The whole where it is now, you pay so much for an NFT because you can rent it out and all that type of thing. Only thing I've been able to come up with is advertising being incorporated into some of these games, or some type of sponsors from corporations or institutions. But that's the only thing that I can come up with, because it still has to be, we're talking about sustainability for the long haul, for the world. So what are your guys' thoughts on that going forward? How can we make it work where the barrier of entry is low? That would be a great thing, but how do we do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, advertising those things are ways to go subsidize, these ecosystems. But I think how it can work and how I've seen right now, because basically a lot of this is still gambling at the end of the day. You are putting up some type of money and you're going to go play against other players, and the majority of these people are going to lose. And I think one of the ways to combat all of that is, what I've seen with Splinterlands, where basically you can enter into the game for free, you can play and then start to enjoy yourself. And then afterwards, you have the ability to go buy a spell book for about $10 and you can go enter into the game, right? And then how it's set up is with multiple different leagues. So, you're only playing against other players at your level, where the odds are a lot more in your favor because you're not getting swamped by these players with all these big assets just destroying you. And that's how you can control, these people from gaining a lot over time and just, basically screwing over the little guy. And, as you progress through these games and make more money, you move on to other leagues. And I think, it's also about setting the odds. Maybe each game that you're playing, you only have 10% chance, to lose, to where overall you're going to win a certain amount of games and you might lose one or two. And then in the end, you're still a gain in the end. And I think those are some ways to combat it. But I don't think any of the economies are really stable enough yet in the gaming ecosystem.
I do definitely ally with your thoughts, though, here around advertising. And advertising not in the traditional sense that we're used to. You see a billboard, you see this. But advertising, as I spoke about before, about the ownership of your personal data online and being able to monetize that in order to get into these barriers of entry, right? We're seeing this happen in the Web2 ecosystem anyways. Netflix just released their pay tier for consumers who don't want to pay the $20 now. Same thing that we're going to start seeing in Web3 and companies that are going to start developing these Web3 CRMs that are providing ownership of the data to the consumer, and then they're going to be able to exchange that. So you know what, I want to play, I'm out of tokens, I'm out of lives. Here, I'll happily watch a message from a sponsor or purchase an item here that's going to give me that life. But the difference is it's going to be opted in and very much a bi-directional data flow where they're doing it in exchange for something of tangible value in their immediate ecosystem.
Yeah, and I was going to say there are like other ways to, to help these ecosystems, but a majority of people I would say are greedy and take the money for their own like company. And I think one of the things that some of these games could do is like you can have people locking up tokens, providing liquidity, and I think then all those earnings should maybe just be burned. And then what happens is that community or that game should have the responsibility to you still give them some type of asset that'll be worth something in the game, and then let that ride on the secondary market afterwards. And if you can initiate those mechanisms, then essentially you're betting on the scale of the game, and as it grows, you'll continue to burn more tokens, which will appreciate over time, increasing the value in your game. And so I think we all need to kind of set these standards into this.
I want to add one thing to advertising. Let's take questions.
One question. So to onboard the next 1 billion users into our space, I think we first have to also onboard the first 100 million onto the workforce, working in decentralized ways, working for all these projects around here. What's your thoughts on bringing those next 100 million people into this space, working, talking benefits, talking social security, talking healthcare, and so on?
Yeah. And I think that's been really difficult because there is a very limited workforce out there. And I think, the way to go benefit from this and like onboard these next 100 million workers is to go out and invite people into it. I think a lot of the time, because of all these stigmas, people don't actually understand what this industry is about. They look at it as like a large scam. They see, again, like these Bored Apes selling for ridiculous amounts in the end, and they think, again, it's just like people like trading stocks. And I think it's all of our responsibility. Things start from one person, and that eternal conversation that you pass it on to someone else, they pass it on to them, and it continues. And I think, again, like the biggest thing is education into that.
So one thing that got me thinking, this conference got me thinking, was what utility is, what it means, right? Because I think that we have to balance. Someone like downstairs was just saying that utility was like being able to use the NFT as your profile picture on LinkedIn, and that's ridiculous. But how do you balance that? The idea that, because we still have a lot of stigma, right? Like we're going to get rich overnight, and founders have these ideas as well, and you have a tradable asset. So from one side, you have to say, okay, what is utility? And on the other side, you have someone who wants to make money out of that. How do you think we can balance that in a sustainable way?
I don't know. Do you want to go?
I mean, yeah, I think the way to balance that in a sustainable way is, starting with real world assets, things that, you're getting on chain that have a tangible value still. And I think, how that looks is, getting your car on chain. And then every time that you go get an oil change, it's recorded in your NFT, and now it's immutable. The certain amount of mileage on your car, now that's immutable. How many times you go bring it to get checked in, types of things that are actually service real purposes in this world, I think is how you start into all of that.
So I have a slightly different opinion because I completely agree that that's the future. Our CVs, our death certificates, our birth certificates, all on chain. But I think right now it's about taking these minor steps. And if we look at some of the most successful projects, Adapper Labs, they are taking utility that people are accustomed to using, trading a sports card. This is something that everyone understands the value that a rookie card has over a professional card. And starting to understand what are these small pieces that we can transfer into a Web3 environment that actually start bringing people on. They're like, oh, wow, this is great. Now I have access to this token. I can also be the first person to buy the next series of concert tickets, or I become part of a founders club and I have the first access to new concerts and new information and new merchandise. And I think that's where the next step is to bring the next wave of people on, is providing small, accustomed utilities that they're much more happy to utilize.
Yeah, and I'm gonna probably jump on your bandwagon because I think like they say, there's levels to this, right? So like if you do something, you have an NFT and you get a hat, like that may be utility for you, right? Like because the hat now is linked to the NFT, your ownership, no one else can have that hat, etc. And then you have like real estate. So we start small, get people comfortable, don't confuse them, grab an email, something simple, and then get them on.
Yeah, and this is.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think like NFT, when it comes to the bottom of it, it's just a digital representation of data. So like whatever like you're doing, whatever you're using in the real world, like everything is non-fungible. Like this watch or like my car, my house, they're all non-fungible. So it's just like a new way to represent data on chain, and it's programmable and it's like interactable. So like one very like reasonable next step to make use of these assets and to provide them utility would be like games or like yeah. So they are by nature they're digital. Like there isn't really that much like real life games. Yeah, and so like combining these digital assets, no matter like it's something that you own, something that you have, and make use of it and like. Yeah, so have like a more digital representation, and it connects to what you like to do in life, like collecting cards or like making the use of them and like play against each other. That would be a very strong utility, and that can come very soon.
First of all, a really insightful talk. I really liked it. I'm 17 years old, and I think there's a lot of people my age, if not younger, trying to navigate through the space, get started. And quite honestly, a lot of them are really reluctant to it. They think it's a huge Ponzi scheme. So what's something we can all do collectively in order to spread the word to the younger generation?
I mean, just educate your friends. Just let them know like that what this is doing for the rest of the world. This is boosting up people's economies. This is getting people out of countries where they've been persecuted. This is allowing people to do things like underneath the radar as well in good ways. And like one of the examples again is like in Venezuela, people are getting persecuted for mining Bitcoin. The military comes in, they see that you're using a lot of power on the power grid. Boom, they swipe your miners, they take it back to a base, and they go mine the Bitcoin themselves. But you have things, again, like games, which you can be playing on your computer, just running like nothing else and starting to earn real value, and then you're able to go leave that country afterwards.
I just want to add like a simple analogy I just thought of. Imagine they throw a bunch of diamonds in the middle of Times Square, right? And real diamonds, right? Valuable diamonds, Tiffany's, maybe they fall off a truck. What's going to happen? People are going to fly in, or money. They're going to probably shove people out of the way. Some people probably going to be trampled. This is literally what's happening. We're in this like frenzy mode, and if you just tell people step back a bit. Stop reading like the headline and learn about blockchain and what it can do to humanity, right? And the sustainability is going to come. Like we are literally, everyone I know that's building even on Bitcoin network cares about sustainability, but that's not what you're going to read about. So just to give you a sense.
Yeah, I would stop following any of these influencers. I haven't seen really any of them at the event. They're not even showing up for these talks. A lot of people are scared to go face the public afterwards. All I have to say is there is no crypto Jesus. It's about all of us coming together to unite as one. And that's the whole thing right now. We have a chance, if we all unite as like retail investors, we do actually scare the institutions. And I've seen it before where, people have automated hedge funds for, retail users where they onboard them and they all walk in unison. And then what happens when that company tries to go public is the SEC goes, oh, nope, you can't have this, shut it down. So they're scared of us. We have a chance right now.
And I would say this kind of combines your question as well here about how do we actually start bringing the next generation to the workforce. It's people like you who are asking great questions, who are looking to find projects, people at events like this that already have that foundational understanding to help bring it into the new world. And I've personally started my entire life in tech, and I started working in something called programmatic advertising. by the time when I started, we were one of the first companies doing it. Now this is something that kids can study in college. And I hire people that have their degree in programmatic, and it cracks me up because I'm like, we learn this on the streets. And that's where you guys are right now, is how do I actually learn all these pieces, get involved with exciting projects, do due diligence, and make sure that you're not just like getting caught up in this idea of selling the next Bored Ape, but actually saying, how do I get involved with the project, focus on sustainability, on human rights, on pieces like that. And there's a lot of them here, there's a lot of them out there.
Exactly. Any other questions? We got 1 minute left over here.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm the CTO of Parler, the free speech social media network. We have a tension between getting rid of spam and scams and free speech. And so I'm wondering if you guys have thoughts in the decentralized world, that tension that I think was addressed a little bit by the panel, of not wanting censorship, perhaps, although maybe some do, and getting rid of things like spam and scams and so forth.
I mean, and I think like at that point you have to trace it back to the source, and you have to look at how many messages they're sending, is this going around to a bunch of different communities? Is this like a total outreach? Or I think a lot of that too, you can allow the community to decide what is a scam or what's not, and maybe sometimes it should be posted, and then the community all comes together to vote it down in the end. And that could maybe be a thing of actually utilizing this democracy that we have right now in crypto and having them, dictate what's going on in the platform. Because I think there always are enough voices out there who are going to make sure that the right stuff rides.
Yeah, I would just say let the community decide.
Yeah, I think it's hard to do because like spam for you is probably something very valuable for someone else, and it's hard to do in real life. It's like blockchain is not a solution to this kind of stuff. Like it's just an alternative way that you can more efficiently decide this kind of stuff. So whatever problem that exists in real life still exists on blockchain. Yeah, so even if it's decided by the community, then like if this community is majorly tending toward one direction, then like it's not ideal for the rest of the population. So yeah, it's still the same problem.
I would just say identity verification early on, and I think that is something that blockchain can definitely help with, is as we continue to build our digital profiles, understanding what you're going to be using to actually be able to sign into any of these new apps. But
actually, I disagree. I think identity is the worst thing for blockchain right now, because what's going to happen in the next 5 years, if we KYC all of our users, eventually all these like Web3 apps are going to see there's no use in launching token, because a lot of these tokens end up failing, and then you can't go partner with real institutions and other types of businesses because they read online and they see the token failed and they think that you're a scam. And what happens is, if this is an immutable database, right? So like everything can be traced. So once a few people get KYC'd, if a friend sent me money, he's gonna be like, oh, I sent money to Matt after he got KYC'd. And next thing you know, the investigation starts on me. And I think what happens is if we all KYC ourselves, we're actually recreating Web 2 in a worse situation, because now everything's on chain, it's immutable, all of our IDs are verified, and then all of these Web 3 apps are going to be accepting just USDC and USDT for stability. And then again, we're on crypto and crypto, and we just empowered Web 2 all over again.
I don't think necessarily identity has to be a KYC. Identity can be a profile that has content that exists beyond an instant email create. It can be a wallet that is still anonymous but is filled with objects and items that people design a profile around, so that you don't just have a blank scam email account to sign up for something.
Yeah, but who's verifying all these KYCs? Is it like the FBI? Is it the CIA? Like what type of services are they using? Who is the best figure to go be trusted to go have all these identities and make sure that everyone's all right? At the end of the day, people are using the services on the back end, and it goes right back. So.
Yeah. Excellent. All right, well, we are out of time. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.